We're going on to the doll's house. Now, I'm not sure who asked this. Yes, I am sure. It is Shibu Mahlo. So Shibu, you sent this extract with these questions. Let's just take a quick look at the extract. They usually give you some help. So Isabel is telling her friends about the doll's house. It's impossible not to laugh. Her little sister, how else, wore a long white dress, like a nightgown, pairs of boys' boots. She would have looked strange, tiny wishbone of a child, cropped hair, enormous solemn eyes, little white owl. Nobody had ever seen her smile, scarcely ever spoke. Went through life holding on to Lil, piece of her skirt screwed up in her hand, else followed, playground, road, Lil marching in front, our else holding on behind. Only when she wanted anything, she was out of breath, gave Lil a tug, a twitch, Lil stopped, turned. The Kelbys never failed to understand each other. Now they hovered on the edge, you couldn't stop them listening. Little girls turned round and sneered. Lil, as usual, gave a silly, shamefaced smile. Our else only looked. Isabel's voice, so very proud, went on telling. The carpet made a great sensation, so did the beds, the real bedclothes, and the stove. Right. How do you study for literature? Well, if this is a short story that you are meant to know, you are meant to recognize where in the story it comes. So to practice, open whatever text it is, poetry, Macbeth, Hamlet, just open it at any point and start reading and start explaining to yourself. So do a self-quiz, right? So if we take this passage, it was impossible not to laugh, and her little sister. So what are we seeing here is that something has come before, and we are meant to know what has come before that they're laughing about. And what do we see? First question. Question word, keyword. So you need to know what comes before this. So, Shibu, if you find that that was the problem, you looked at the question and thought, I can't remember, then you need to say to yourself, you need to read it more often. Right? So often I'll say to students, did you read this? Yes, ma'am. But if you can't remember it, there's not much good in telling me that you read it, okay? You've got to read it and remember it. Now, let's say you're sitting there in the exam and you've gone a blank. And you look at it and you think, oh my gosh, I can't remember. Then look at the and. And is adding something similar. We use and when we are connecting the same kind of idea. So what are we seeing? It's the little sister is wearing a long white dress, rather like a nightgown, and a pair of little boys' boots. But look back at the question. There's another piece of help. Why are they laughing at Lil? And so you say to yourself, oh, okay, calm down. I can remember what Lil was wearing. So the help in the passage reminds you of what am I meant to be talking about, what the girls wear. And if you remember, the mother doesn't have very much money at all. So she dresses her children in either other people's clothes or the clothes she makes from the material she's given. So for example, if she's given a curtain, she can cut that curtain up to make clothes for her children. So go back to the question, how many marks? Even if you cannot remember exactly what it was, start with saying, they're laughing at the clothes that she is wearing. Fine, that should give you at least 1 mark. And if you can't remember exactly, say that the mother dresses them in cast-offs, that's clothes that other people have thrown away, or in clothes that are made out of other people's material. So as the child walks down the road, the other girls are saying, aha, you're dressed in mommy's tablecloth. And that should give you enough in the exam to get the 2 marks. They're laughing because they recognize their own old clothes or the clothes made out of material that came out of their houses, and they laugh. Nasty, right? Okay. Once again, what help are you given here? Your question word is, what is the keyword physical difference? Then we have to identify a figure of speech in the little white owl. Then we must explain why it is suitable. And then when is the only time that else smiles. So this is a memory test. You either remember when she smiles or you don't. If at this point you are studying short stories for FAL and you don't remember when she smiles, then you need to read the story again. That's the homework for tonight. Right. What is the physical difference? Help is here in the passage. We've got our else is tiny. So she's really, really small. So maybe you can say, well, if she's so small, maybe her sister is big or bigger. And you basically are there. And it might help you remember. But those 2 marks, 1 mark is in the passage. She's small, she's tiny, she's thin. And the other one, sorry, that's else. That's the thin one. The other one is guess, but you might say she's a little bit overweight or something like that. You've got your 2 marks. So although your contextual question is not a comprehension, you are meant to know the story. There will be help in the passage that might get you going. Okay. Right, little white owl, please don't take a guess. Please go back to the passage. She was a tiny wishbone of a child. So there's our first figure of speech, which you're not asked about. So if you are having chicken and you have the chicken breast, I'm sure you've seen the wishbone. It's like there's a slightly thicker piece there and then the 2 pieces, and you can break them. I don't know what you did as a child, but we used to let them dry. And then we would pull them apart, and whoever got the bigger piece was like the winner for that occasion. I don't know, children. All right, so that's the wishbone image. And then we're told she is a little white owl. So obviously, there is no wishbone in the story. There is no owl in the story. So we have a metaphor. Okay, so we've identified it. Now, we come to explain why it's suitable. All right, now, in home language, these 2 questions would go together as one question. They would end up being a 3-mark question, and probably you wouldn't get a mark for identifying the metaphor. But it doesn't matter if you're FAL or home language, you are going to explain the suitability in exactly the same way. So you begin in this metaphor, comma. Right, who is being called an owl? Else is described as an owl. Now, I don't think either in home language or FAL you should expect any marks for this in matric. Very often we give a mark for this part here to grade 8 and 9 because students get it the wrong way around. They say an owl is being described as our else. Our else is described as an owl. Right. Now, what does an owl have in common with the little girl? So say to yourself, these huge eyes, suggesting that she is very solemn and serious. It also tells us how thin she is. She seems to be all eyes, and maybe the eyes are a little bit sunken. Then her hair is cropped, it's short. So maybe it reminds the person, the observer person looking at her, of the feathers of the owl that stand up. So in this way, she seems like a fragile bird. Birds are fragile. The wishbone is fragile. So a fragile bird, fragile, easily broken, right? Easily broken. So she's thin and she's fragile. So you get all of these ideas in sentences. No, you do not use bullets. I'm using bullets for notes. So Else is described as an owl. In the same way as an owl has huge eyes, so does our Else, emphasizing how solemn and serious she is. Moreover, remember connectives, they are really important. Moreover means in addition. Moreover, her eyes seem so big in relation to how thin and white she is, how pale she is with these huge eyes. Her hair is short, resembling, being like the feathers of the owl that stand up. Overall, the metaphor suggests that our Else is like a fragile bird. That's how you deal with that question. Now, we've done a lot more than 3 marks worth, whether you are home language or FAL. But that's what you try to do. You need to practice it. Please don't just write metaphor, white, thin, big eyes. I want you to put it together in a well-constructed sentence. Okay, now we come to refer to line 12. Always go back to the passage. Don't say, oh yeah, I remember that. Go back and check that you remember it. Now they hovered at the edge. You couldn't stop them listening. Who is you? You are the other girls. Why is you used here? To make me feel guilty, to make me feel as if for the moment I am like those other girls, horrible and nasty. Right, okay, they hovered near the edge. Explain the meaning. All right, so we've got a group of girls. There they are, they're all forming this group. And then we have the little Kelsey children who are as close to the edge as they can get, but not part of the group. So that's what it means. The 2 little Kelsey girls, Lil and Else, are close to the rest of the girls, but are not part of the group. Why? Right, because they are unwanted. They are rejected. Now, we know in our country, our big problem has always been the separation on the basis of race. That you are prejudiced against people because of their race. Please, it's prejudiced against people because of their race. But what's happening in South Africa is we're seeing more and more, not so much a race difference as wealth. So we're still seeing a separation of people, but more and more it's becoming wealth. What is it in this story? It is class. And class and wealth very often go together. So we talk about working class people, like the man who delivers the milk or used to deliver the milk. And we talk about middle class people. And middle class people are professionals. They are people who have degrees, like a doctor or an architect or a lawyer. They are educated people with degrees. And then we have upper class. And the upper class people have wealth. Don't have to work generally. Their wealth makes more wealth. Right, so this story, this doesn't basically exist. We've got these 2 classes, and there is appalling prejudice based on class. So the working class children who go to school with the middle class children because their parents can't stop it. They would if they could, but there's no other school. So they have to go to the same school, and they have to mix with these children. Right. But they say, in the most terrible lines, they say that the parents draw the line. So they have to accept that their little boys and girls are going to talk to and play with and be in class with these, children of laborers, farm workers, But they draw the line at this particular family because they accuse the father of having gone to prison, that he's a jailbird, he's a prisoner, and the mother does the cleaning in these people's homes. So this terrible rejection, and the rejection so unfair. The mother is hardworking, committed, caring, responsible adult, but rejected because of her being too low, too far beneath them to take into any account. All right, so the children are rejected simply because of their mother's social position. Nothing about them. Are they unpleasant girls? No, it's nothing to do with them. All right, then why is Isabel so very proud? Be careful. Go back to your passage. Isabel's voice, so very proud, went on telling. What is she telling about? What's this? The carpet, the beds. These are all part of the doll's house. So she's telling the other girls about this gift that they've been given. And she is so very proud. She is boasting about the doll's house and how marvelous it is. And she's also proud of the fact that she's the one who's allowed to do the telling, because if we just go back to the passage again, it's Isabel who's allowed to do the telling. The other two girls are not allowed to. She says she's the eldest of the three. It's her right, her privilege. Now we come to question word, keywords. And remember, it's in this extract. So the question word is what? The actions and character. So let's have a look at else. We're told that she never smiles. Oh, didn't get my color. I want that color. So she doesn't smile. She's very, very silent. She holds on to her sister. She actually holds on to a piece of her sister's skirt. She follows. And if she wants something, or when she's out of breath, she gives a tug or a twitch and Lil stops. So what do we understand about this child? She seems to be incredibly shy. Do you know the word reserved? Reserved is when you are anxious in society. You can't relax easily. So she seems not to have much self-confidence. Remember, what must you do for the 2 marks? You must substantiate. So if you say, as I did here, she's shy, prove it. She very seldom smiles. She hardly ever speaks. She is incredibly quiet. And then reserved, that she doesn't put herself forward. She always comes after her sister, and lacking in self-confidence. She follows her sister. She doesn't have the confidence to walk out in front. All right, we come to this. This is a key question at the end of every contextual, where you are asked, keyword, to discuss and to give an opinion which you discuss. So does she represent hope against social prejudice? So you need to decide for yourself. So you might want to say, well, Kezia is certainly prepared to include the little Kelvies. She asks her mother why they can't be invited. So she is, in fact, challenging her mother, that her mother tells her to be quiet. Then, when she's told not to do anything, she acts. She actually invites the girls to come in and to see the doll's house. So Kezia has a completely different attitude. And her attitude is much fairer. She's not judging these children on their class, but on the fact that they are peers. They are her classmates. There's nothing wrong with mixing with them. So do we feel that that's hopeful? Well, I do. I feel that that change of attitude is one that suggests to me that in the future, Kezia will grow up to be an adult who will challenge the social prejudices of her community. And so she is hopeful. But if you're asked to discuss, you might want to look for the counter-argument. And the counter-argument would go along the lines of, but can one person change the world? She is a lone voice, only one person challenging. And as a child or even as an adult, can she bring a real change?